this on Twitter just in case there's, you know, that one person that actually follows me on Twitter that cares. Alright, so tier lists. What I should have done is lay down some ground rules as to why, yes, it's going to be letter-based. The old JP style, where S is the top, A is next, B is next, and then C. I doubt that we're going to be touching D tier, because if something is D tier, there's probably a good chance that I excluded them from the list. Last time, for instance, we put Tella onto the mages list, but he didn't really belong there. He's a mage, sure, but he didn't have anything to make him worth using. Actually, he did. He's got a super soul break that makes him worth adding to a list somewhere. But anyway, the lower tiers don't really... I'm not going to bother with putting them on the list because I think it's just a waste of our time. If they're not on the list, you can either bring it up or assume that they're a character not worth using. They're a meme. You know, if you get Gao's, you know, BSB, you've got something you can surprise and give everyone a good laugh in a multiplayer game. Yeah, and Angeal. God, my goodness. But other than that, you're going to notice a lot of exclusions and inclusions on these lists that are a little weird. Hey, Jimbo, what's going on? And I'll do my best to explain them. And if you would like to make your case of why something should be here or why something shouldn't be here, we'll absolutely discuss that because that is the entire point of the stream. Get ready for me to get hoarse over the course of these next 3 days. And probably tonight as well. I've got a lot of waters next to me. I'm going to need them because I'm sweating my ass off already anyway. Does anybody have any questions about how these tier lists are going to go? Because there is actually, you know, a lot to be said about the rules. What the point of these tier lists? Will there be categories that won't even have an S tier? No. I've looked throughout every single category and I can identify somebody in every single category that is worthy of S tier. Will Zero Throttle be considered for future content? No. Not multiplayer either. Difficult content. Zero Throttle apparently is not difficult. They make it quite easy. Why is Bart's on Physical Fire Group and not Physical Earth? It's a good question. Nice catch. I have no idea why he isn't there. Bam, updated. Refresh. Zero Throttle is just way too easy to consider when it comes to these characters being worth a damn. Sorry for the mic nonsense, but I want to make sure that this is picking me up properly. And it's not blocking what my view of the screen. Hey, Ray Duos. Essentially, what you're going to want to do for Zero Throttle is use 5-star abilities or 6-star and bring in people that are legend dived that have, you know, cool things that they can do with their legend dive that doesn't need soul breaks. How much in the evaluation are Magicite contributions weighted? How do you mean? Like how good they are in Magicite dungeons? Heavily. A lot of the characters that are going to be in the B, A, and S tiers on these lists will complete Magicite dungeons. Or be, strong members and even C tier to complete Magicite dungeons. No, it's how good they are for what would be considered difficult content. And Magicite dungeons are just the most difficult content. So I guess that's what everything is weighed by. But considering that we're looking at elemental teams, then these will be almost interchangeable with other hard content, not considering Magicite. Are you doing debuffers in their own tier? Yes. To hear the tiers, I'll just post the link again. Ricky, no. If you look under the special consideration section, which is the 22nd tier list, it's not actually a tier list. What I have is dual casting ninjas, Edge, Shadow, and Yuffie. Because they are potent in multi-elemental, in weird because they ignore the resistance stat of bosses. I've pulled them aside, and I will talk about them separately because they're worthy of being in those tiers. It's just weird to compare them to those tiers because of the way they deal damage, I suppose. And yeah, Blyven, I've separated buffing supports and debuffing supports. And from then on, it's pretty easy what we're doing from there. Every element separated into physical and magical. And what we're going to try to do after every single element is completed is try to talk about the S tiers of physical versus magical and try to figure out if, which side of the aisle is more worth going for, if either of them are. You consider Magicite bosses to be boring, but that's just me. Well, that's fine. That doesn't have any bearing on what we're talking about. Because we're just trying to find some sort of reasonable rating for characters within a certain element, for dealing their elemental type of damage. So while Magicite play an important role in this, it's not necessarily, geared towards Magicite. It's just geared towards exploiting, elemental vulnerabilities, or even not in the case of just using chains and stuff like that. And then once all of this is done, next week, hopefully, all this will be done by next week. I'll do what I did last time and assemble my personal list of the highest tier characters in the game. Well, I know you just want to get started, but there's a lot of things that go into this, and I just want to make sure that the foundation is laid. Who knows, J-Snick? All right, exploiting weakness is definitely something that's a global strength, right? The game is pretty much about that now. All right. Sit up and start moving on with this. We are starting out with healers. There's a lot of them. And because of the way healers are built in Final Fantasy Record Keeper, there's generally a low point that they don't go past as long as they have a competent healer BSB. They can be pretty damn good with just that. And what's nice about healers is the ability upgrade, balance changes that'll be coming at the end of November, don't touch healing, because all that does is reduce the cast time of Ultra Cure by 0.15 seconds to make it in line with Curaja and Curada. So it just makes Ultra Cure as good as Curaja, except with Asuna instead, where right now it has a longer cast time. Only slightly, but it is longer. So where a lot of other burst soul breaks in the game, damage-oriented ones, get pushed out of, a lot of their usefulness. They generally, a lot of them turn into glorified, N-element super soul breaks. They give plus 20% stats. Better than super soul breaks, but they lose a lot of their value because of the burst commands aren't anywhere near as good as the 5-star abilities or 6-star abilities. Healing is not touched by that. So we're going to be looking at healers and evaluating them pretty strongly on the value of their burst soul break and or burst soul breaks, and hoping for what should we call it? Extended capability of their USBs in comparison to their BSBs. And what I mean by that is, say, take Realm, for instance. Realm has a really nice BSB, where she has a Cura Medica on cast that does a little bit of damage that nobody cares about, which steals some multiplayer bosses sometimes. An instant-cast Curaja on Command 1 and a regular Medica command on Command 2. Fine burst. And it gives everyone last stand in the party. One of the only 2 bursts in the game that do that. So that's a really good burst. And then you look at her USB, and it does something completely different, but also really good. I personally weight that very highly for a healer. Because it gives them... It gives you a lot of reason to invest in them as a character. Because they're going to be useful to you in a multitude of situations. Having last stand on one hand, and having instant cast, instant Kiraga Medica with Stone Skin on the other hand is really nice in a completely different way. So it extends the capability of the character. So that will be highly rated. Deuce is the best healer. Well, she's pretty good. She's pretty good. And we'll get to her. Unfortunately, Type 0 is last on our list, so she'll be last. But anyway, let's talk about these characters. Oh, that's another thing. Something has been brought up in the last few lines. Legend dives. The value of a character's legend dive will definitely have an impact on the character's rating. Sometimes they can overcome it, Realm, but sometimes they can't. Because having a good legend dive is a good thing. And it's also a good thing if they don't. Thank you, Payaso, for the follow. Let's take Iris, for instance. She's really great and has a great LMR, and you can have a legend materia on her that's really nice. But her legend dive isn't good, so that's a really good healer you can have on your team. And you don't have to legend dive them, so that means you can do an offensive mage instead. It works both ways for healers. As long as they have an LMR, it's usually nice. A good LMR, like Iris. Anyway. Let's start. We've talked about the groundwork for healing enough, so let's get into it. Sarah is number one. Sarah was one of the top choices, I would say, for getting her BSB off of the Crystal Tower draw that we just had for the 30th anniversary festival. Her BSB is great. And I suppose that should be the first thing we take a look at on each of these healers. Because almost across the board, a good burst, healing burst soul break is the foundation of a good healer mage. Age-old hymn. Restores HP 55. Just keep in mind, HP 55 is a Cura level entry. So it'll heal everyone for, high 2000s, low 3000s. Depends on how much mind you've got. Grants magical blink 1 to the entire party. Until recently in Japan, with Alma's burst soul break, this was the only healer burst that granted magic blink 1 to the entire party. And as everyone probably knows by now, magic blink 1 is a very valuable status because it allows you to dodge some really, really debilitating effects. One that immediately comes to mind is Fenrir's ultimate attack that hits everyone with a piercing magical attack that has a pretty decent chance to slow. And can really ruin some runs. So Sarah, if you're able to get off her BSB in time for that, is great. Of course, you'd rather something instant like Rose's, but we'll talk about that later. Here's a really nice benefit that I think flies under the radar. Is resistance and mind plus 30% to the user for 25 seconds. One of the reasons people like Vanille's so much. Vanille's is a lot more popular, has shown up in a lot more places, so that's why I'm using it as a point of reference. Is by giving herself this 30% mind buff on cast of her BSB, that really amps up the power of her commands. So your Medica command will start doing a heck of a lot more healing, which is really nice, just innately. So every single effect on this Burst Soul Break entry is really nice. And it more than makes up for the fact that it's only a Cura Medica at HP 55 rather than a Cura Medica. And taking a look at the commands, she has great commands too, even better than the normal. Her first command is an instant cast, HP 80, which is Curaga. Usually, it's an instant Curaja. That is pretty much the standard. But it loses a little bit of that healing potency and grants high regen instead. That's really nice. And I prefer this over the Curaja command. Because, consider that Sarah buffs up her mind by 30% on the entry of her Burst Soul Break. That's awesome. And that makes it so this Curaga command will likely be full healing people, probably over healing people. So losing that potency doesn't actually lose you much heal. It's to your lists, Eclipse Dem. So this is a great alternative. Probably the best healer command one that is available. And it is the same one that occurs on Mog's BSB. We'll talk about that later. And Sarah's command 2 is a generic Medica, but that's fine. The Medica command is what makes healer BSBs as powerful as they are. So right away, we have one of the best healer BSBs that the game has to offer. So great start to this character. Moving on, extending the capability of the healer and making them useful in other situations. Do we find that underneath? This is going to be my format from here on. There was a tier list command. I changed it to tier lists because it just makes more sense, I guess, because there are many tier lists. So I'm going to evaluate their BSB, and then I'm going to evaluate everything below, and then we're going to go for the USB. So here we get the Ancient Loot, Kuraga Medica grants haste, whatever. Attack and defense plus 30%. So she gets a Hand of the Emperor. Whatever. Cura Medica and grants high regen. So nothing really all that exciting down here. Plus 10 mind across the board, I'm thinking. So nothing great there. That's okay. I think that's going to be the same case for many of these healers. It will be a special healer that gets something in their Super Soul Break and Soul Break section that's worthy of note. So let's move to the USB. And here we see that Sarah turns into a completely different character, which is actually really interesting. Sarah gets Warrior's Song, her USB. That will be on the next Final Fantasy 1 event, and it's on a really nice banner. Attack and Magic plus 30% to all allies, grants haste to all allies, shell, and HP stock 2000 to all allies. This is technically 4 effects. I would say more like 3, but combining haste and a hybrid buff into a single USB is already a great start. And HP stock is what I would say turns it into a USB instead of a Super Soul Break tier. The shell is just a bonus. So this is a really good USB. And it's really interesting on Sarah as a character because it turns her into a buffer in one regard, while her BSB turns her into a magic blinking super healer. So 2 different types of healers, which is great. I love that. I personally love that, and I'm going to weight that highly. The only other attack and magic plus 30% buff I think we see on healers is on another bard, Deuce, and anyone who's frequented this stream knows how I feel about Deuce and her Burst Soul Break. So what's nice about Sarah is that she gets this, and it's also a Haska. So that turns her into what could possibly be one of your anchor supports onto a team. And then we have to talk about her capabilities beyond that, because if you're using a USB, that means you're relying on your ability pool from that point on, right? Normally, if we're talking about healers, that means they have access to White Magic 5 or 6. They're using, Ultra Cure or Curada, and probably Protecga and Shelga, and that's probably pretty damn good because she gets HP stock 2000 on the entry, which is a really nice thing to have on the entry because you don't mind having that at the start of the battle. It's a medica you don't mind having because it overheals in a good way. So she turns into a competent buffing healer at that point. But another thing we have to take into consideration, and this is more going into deeper character evaluation on Sarah. So on the character tab of Enliers, we see that Sarah is White Magic 5 and Bard 5. So Sarah can not only be a healer as well as that opening buffer, but if you don't need her to heal, if you don't need Protector or Shelga, you can carry that on somebody else. Then all of a sudden, in current global, Sarah can Allegro Con Moto, which is the 6-star Bard ability, which gives everybody on the team quick magical attacks 3, which is incredibly powerful on a mage team. That's already extremely good. And then from there, we can add on some other stuff, which we believe we're going to be getting in the coming Bravo event, which is musically themed and, it features bards and stuff. We believe we'll be getting two new bard abilities. I'm going to go take a look at them now. One is Devil's Anthem and one is Devil's War Song. They'll probably be called something different for Global, but just so you know, we'll be getting these two 5-star bard abilities. One of them is for physical teams and one of them is for magical teams. I think I'd probably use the 6-star bard, Allegro con Moto, over the magical one, but I guess it depends on what kind of magic buffs you're looking at in your party. But anyway, it's a really simple, it looks complicated, but it's a really simple buff. You use the bard ability and it grants plus 10% magic or plus 10% attack to the party, depending on which one you use. And then if you use it again, it increases to 20%. You use it again, increases 30%, and so on to 50%. It's probably only worth using like twice. You can, in your other ability slot, carry like Curada. Unique ID. Yes, it's unique ID. So it will stack with everything. So this is really neat because Bard characters, and in this case, a Bard healer, can do something completely other than healing if you would like them to, which means that this character is very diverse in their strengths. So Sarah is really great with her ability pool, and both of her primary soul breaks, her burst and her USB, are both excellent. They're both excellent. Buff length based on typical mind status. No, I do not believe so. We'll go check that though. It's 10 seconds regardless. There is no modifier for mind. Does casting something else reset the stack? No. Only the duration running out, which is 10 seconds. So you're likely going to want to alternate in order to keep your stacks active. So we've looked at the soul breaks, we looked at the commands, we looked at, her ability pool. What comes next? It's got to be the record dive and the legend dive. Why am I looking at record spheres? I probably won't from here on. Do stacks expire together or independently? Together. Yeah, I'm probably not going to take a look at record dives because they're not all that impactful. She gets 12% WHT heals. There are some healers that don't. 12% is the ideal. But it's going to be rare for a healer not to get the 12%. If anyone would like to go ahead and check out the ones that don't and let me know, that'd be nice. But I don't think it's that impactful on the character. I don't think I would evaluate a character based upon, the value of their record dive. Unless maybe because they have a bad legend dive. But we see that is actually just not the case here for Sarah. Sarah gets WHC heals 9%. That's the ideal. And double silence immunity. Or silence resistance. And status immunity or status resistances. That's going to throw me off a couple times until I get used to it. They stack. So Sarah does not need silence resistance accessories. She can focus on something else. Which actually is quite useful. Looking ahead at the 4-star Magicite, which will be the hardest content in the game once they're released, actually have a ton of status effects on the boss and having a useful status resistance, because obviously you don't want Sarah silenced. Similar value to major? No. Minor plus medium or moderate, similar value to major. I do not. I think so. Anyway, 4-star Magicites debuff a lot, so having silence resistance on Sarah is good because that allows her to wear a different type of resistance accessory. It makes her, just a better addition to a team. So this is a typical White Mage Legend Dive, and it has everything good that we want in it. And looking at her Legend Materia, we see right out of the gate her LM1 and LM2, which are unlocked with Legend Spheres. Our typical WHG abilities restore. This is a 15% more HP and a 35% chance to dual cast white magic abilities. This is a very typical, but the best White Mage Legend Dive. I can't find any faults with Sarah. Is there anything else people would like me to take a look at? Possibly. I mean, this is our first character, so let's go as far as we can, and then figure out what's unnecessary. I think, like I said, the record dive seems kind of unnecessary to take a look at. No Piasso. They do different things, and I don't believe Deuce does better because Deuce has a bad USB. Deuce. Oh yeah, LMR. Why didn't I take a look at the LMR? But yeah, anyway. I would not say that Deuce is better than Sarah because Deuce has a bad USB. So Sarah's LMR, 25% chance to cast a group heal, 25. As we saw with her command 2 on her burst soul break, a group heal 25 is it's the same thing. So what you've been seeing from your command 2s, you can expect here after using a bard ability. So this is a really nice LMR to equip if you're using Sarah as a bard. Using one of the bard abilities or her USB or maybe her BSB and bard abilities, however you want to build her. What I like about this is that it's a situation in which you don't mind swapping out Legend Materials. If you do get her LMR, it's, how am I going to run Sarah today? Well, how does she best fit on this team? I personally, if anyone's been watching my, sub 30 commentary clears on Magicites, I love buffing healers. Buffing healers are great. So I believe I'd probably be making heavy use of this this LMR because I would likely be using Sarah as a bard. Is appearance rate of the character's realm synergy worth considering? No. For instance, here FF1 doesn't come around often. Doesn't really matter anymore. I can't think of many situations in which it makes sense to pull for synergy. Realm synergy. We have so much capability through RW to custom design teams that, suffer from low synergy, that I would be, if you have poor synergy in a realm, I would say go for their power relics off realm. Or, in the case of Final Fantasy 1, go for it on the Final Fantasy 1 banner that's going to be coming up because it's really strong. Yeah, realm synergy used to be important, but it's not really a thing. I think elemental capability, and once the ability upgrade comes around, which increases the potency in the hits of 5-star abilities, you're gonna see that a lot of characters you'll just rate them on their ability pool and their ability to do things. But this is actually kind of not the question that Lifeguard Dan asked. It was more, is it worth considering because Final Fantasy 1 doesn't come around often? There's a flip side to that is, do we want to pull for this? Do we care about this character because they'll never be synergistic with anything? I think it's all about building the strongest characters now. Yeah. So I don't think Realm has much to do with it. I just look at, I think banners should be looked at as, how does this help out, my X-Elemental team everywhere, rather than how does this help out this Realm team. Okay, yeah, that's fair. And I do agree, Elemental Boost Gear, as far as like actually getting synergy relics, Elemental Boost Gear is much more important than having synergy relics. I guess I could talk about a character's equipment selection. It doesn't really matter that much for healers, but I don't think it's all that relevant. It's never going to be so impactful that I would rate a character differently. Maybe in the case of, say, this is for future consideration. Maybe in the case of characters don't have access to the elemental equipment that they could use. Like, this is a good one. It does eventually change, but let's say Terra. Terra can use daggers, swords, and rods. And up until recently, in the 30th anniversary festival for Japan, Terra did not have access to a plus fire 6-star weapon, because the plus fire 6-star weapon was Vivi's staff, his OSB. So that meant that she was unable to use that. That changes. Eventually, she gets access to a rod. It's I believe it's her UOSB relic, but that's just an example. And again, it probably depends on the character, because I wouldn't rate Terra any differently because of that. Not even close. It's a sword? Nice. Terra works best with swords, I think. One second. All right. Yeah, first water has been broken. What else we got for Sarah? This is just so we can establish a blueprint of how to evaluate the characters from here on, so I can make it a little more streamlined and to not take as long. Final rating for Sarah. Um, well, here's something I can talk about. The ratings for characters are going to change as we go down the list, as the tiers get populated, and the further down we go, the better we get an idea of what the tiers will look like. So the first characters that we rate, and Sarah in this case, take it with a grain of salt, because it may change according to other people that get put in her tier and put in the adjacent tiers, because she may design, go in one of those instead. Where am I going to put Sarah? I'm actually throwing her an S. I don't see where this character falls short. She can't be an everything healer, but nobody can. Nobody can. But she has a great BSB, a great USB, a great Legend Dive, and a great ability pool. She is fantastically versatile as a healer. She's S so far, and we'll see what other healers get put in S and A from here on, and maybe she fits into A better. But for now, she is going to she's going to be S. Ooh, next up. Other side of the spectrum, guys. You ready? Minwoo. We'll start out with his Burst Soul Break. Minwoo's Seal of Heaven. 4 group attacks. Grants haste in high region all allies. Grants burst mode to the user. Am I missing something? Is this a healer that doesn't heal? Yeah, it's a healer that doesn't heal. Well, let's take a look at his burst commands at least. Ooh, instant cast Kiraja. Nice. But his command 2 is 2 group attacks and Magic of Mind minus 20% for 15 seconds. So not only is it a healer BSB that doesn't heal on entry, it is also a healer BSB that has no Medica command. And healers need to have BSBs that have Medica commands. It's we went into this big thing when I started talking about the healer list, in that there's a very low floor for healers because they're all going to be pretty good as long as they got a good US or a passable BSB. Minwoo doesn't have that. He just doesn't have that. This is an awful Burst Soul Break. Really just hot garbage. Wretched stuff. So let's take a look at underneath his bursts. We get 3 group attacks, causes stun, non-elemental. Alright. And this is what makes me sad. Is 0 cast time, Kiraga Medica. Will of the White Mage was one of the really nice Super Soul Breaks way back in the day. This was like one of those desirable Medicas for healers. And Minwoo was awesome. How far we have come. Yikes. Well, yeah. So nothing really worthy of note down there, but let's at least take a look at his USB, which, thank goodness, is instant cast, Kiraga Medica grants HP stock 2000 and stone skin 30%. It's actually usable. And not just usable, I do believe it's pretty good. So in order for Minwu to be a C tier healer, which would be like, usable healer in my eyes, I would say that in addition to this USB, he would need either one of two things. He would need a good legend dive, definitely one that gives him dual casting, so he can be a competent single target healer after he has used his USB or before he's used his USB, or have a nice ability pool that allows him to do other things instead of just single target cure. Because just healing with the USB and then just single target curing just makes him worse than almost every other healer in the game who can use their BSB and give sustained healing with a Medica command. So let's go take a look at Minwu and his ability spheres, ability pool. Minwu is, oh dear, he's a white mage and nothing else. So strike 1 out of 2. Minwu's Legend Dive. A percentage chance to remove poison, signless blinds, and confuse for the user after being afflicted with poison, signless blind, or confuse. That is not dual casting. Minwu's LMR, 25% chance to grant physical blink 1 to the target after using a single target white magic ability that restores HP to an ally. That does work with his USB, since he will be using single target cures. However, it's not a good LMR. So Minwu is actually not even C tier worthy. He's D tier, which I said wasn't even going to be present on this list. I only leave Minwu on it because he doesn't even deserve it, because he does have a USB that heals. It's just not... He is probably the worst healer in the game. We're throwing him in C for now. If we generate a C tier that actually has things that, heal more competently than Minwu, then we drop him into D. He will be one of the few people that is on this, on any of these lists that will be part of a D tier. Because he belongs on the list, but he clearly doesn't. Next up, Arc. First character that has 2 burst soul breaks for us to take a look at, which is a good thing because he has no USB, which is weird. But anyway, Arc's BSB 1. Holy Non-Elemental, 5 single attacks. Restores Cura level Medica to party, mind 30% to the user for 25 seconds, and grants haste and burst mode to the user. Okay. Not really feeling this so far. I mean, compare this to Sarah's Cura Medica entry. We traded 5 single attacks of 2.34 potency each for Magic Blink 1 to all allies. Which one would I rather like, or which would I rather have? And would I rather have mine plus 30%? Or would I rather have mine plus 30% and resistance plus 30%? I don't know. So, right away, not really a big fan of the entry on his first Soul Break 1. Let's take a look at the commands. Uh-oh. Doesn't have an instant cast Kiraga or Kiraja, so that's a strike against him too. Restores HP 80, so it's not even a Kiraja, it is a Kiraga. Damages undead, removes negative effects. So this is a bad Ultra Cure. So this is an Ultra Cure that heals for Kiraga level healing. So what is the value of this command? The value of this command is so he opens up his 2 ability slots so you don't have to carry Ultra Cure. Not that valuable. Would much rather an instacast single target. I don't get why I don't get where they get by giving Arc this kind of command, because this is just bad. And cast slower after the ability buff. That's actually a good catch. Kiraja, Ultra Cure, both have a cast time of 1.5 seconds. Apparently, Arc's Command 1 has a cast time of 1.65, like most burst commands, which takes longer to cast than regular abilities do. So it's really, really a bad Ultra Cure. But at least he's not Mimu. He has Medica on entry, and he has a Medica command. So that's his BSB 1. Let's take a look at his BSB 2. Break of Valor. Holy Water. Okay. 8 single attacks. 2.0 each. So that's actually a fairly high multiplier. And instead of healing at all, it grants attach Holy in burst mode. Which is interesting. Break of Valor, first command, 4 single attacks to do 2.60 each. That is a total of what? 10.8? 10.4, sorry. Well, that stinks. You know what we said about healers having bursts and stuff, and soul breaks that don't get affected by the ability upgrade? Well, Arc actually does. This is just a worse version of Holy. This is 4 single attacks for a 10.4, while Holy is 4 single attacks for a total of 12.0. So it's just a bad version of Holy. Let's take a look at the second command. Restores HP 105, so Kiraja, and Mine plus 30% for 25 seconds. So that's kind of cool. So he's a DPS white mage at this point. But what he can do is hopefully use this on himself to buff his mind. So that makes his holies, or his command 1s do more damage. Overall, not good. It's a valiant effort in trying to create a DPS white mage, but I think it falls short, and I think you're going to need a whole lot more white mages that can deal damage in the game to make it worth paying attention to giving mind buffs to characters. Because it's a lot easier to find magic buffs than it is mind buffs. You're generally going to be looking at a single mind buff for your party. And that'd be coming from a character like Yuna, Aphmau, or Mog. He doesn't get mind on entry. He has to use this command on himself to buff his mind by 30%. Which doesn't do any damage. And if you're bringing him as a DPS character, then you don't want to have a turn where he's not dealing damage. At least mages that use the Stitch in Time command or a Lingering Spirit, they at least deal, area of effect or, two attacks. All right, so not great. But we take a look at the bursts. Let's take a look at what comes below. Okay, here's our first example of a still relevant Super Soul Break. Instant Kiraga Medica that grants physical blink when to party. I believe, other than Edge's Super Soul Break 2, this is the only Soul Break in the game currently that gives instant physical blink, which is actually valuable. Instant blinks are really powerful because they are there to allow you to skip mechanics. And if you can skip mechanics, you can squeeze extra damage out of your party. Does he have a legend dive? Yes, he does. Not yet in global, but he will. Oh, That's one thing I'm going to talk about. If I don't remember, remind me after I'm done with Arc. I'm going to talk about when a character becomes what we're talking about, becomes the strength that we're referring to. Like Sarah, when she gets her USB, that's when she becomes S tier. Because right now she's just a really good burst soul break healer. But she comes in her own when she gets her legend dive and her USB. So we need to talk about when that happens because that's very relevant. Because if the character's not that good yet, then, you know. You're right. Penelo's USB is instant physical blink. You're correct. Okay, so what's next? Abilities. Now here we found something interesting. We found that Arc is a summoning 5 character, which means he will have access to the eventual 5-star Holy Summon, which is quite powerful. And being able to end Holy himself with his burst means that Arc can do quite a bit of damage with that. So that is something somewhat valuable added to Arc. The 5-star summon ability that we're talking about is Medine. Which is a 15.0, unfortunately. It's not one of the 18.0s like Tiamat and Ogopogo. Yeah, it's true. Summoning is magic based, so he can't even buff his magic. He buffs his mind with his command 2. If he had buffed his magic and mind with his command 2, that would be better. But is this going to be enough to affect his tier? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Right now, I've got a pretty good idea where I'm putting Arc. Next up, Legend Spheres. Silence and WHT heals 9%. Typical and good. So he has a chance to dual cast white magic abilities. His LMR is one of those iterative mind plus 1% for each hit dealt with white magic abilities up to 25%. Up to 25%. It's not even a significant buff, and it'd take too long to stack up. So that's a bad LMR, but at least he has the typical and good. I did not skip Arc Super Soul Break 2. We talked about it. So 35% chance to dual cast white magic abilities is good. That means that Arc can potentially, with his BSB2, be a fairly decent damaging white mage. Holy is a 12.0 4-hit, so it's exactly as potent as the chain spells. Chain Thandaga, Chain Blizzaga, it's exactly that way, because they will be turned into 4-hit 12.0 attacks. So he can actually deal a fair amount of white magic, or holy damage, which is kind of cool. Kind of cool, but still lacking. B. Ooh, you're generous. Because I believe, personally, that white mages don't really play that big of a role. You need to be truly exceptional at dealing white magic damage, or holy damage as a mage, in order to ascend far enough. And unfortunately, I don't think Arc is a good enough healer because of his lackluster BSB1 to make him worthy of B tier. I would say high C tier. I think that's fair. And already this Arc is better than Mimwu. And so it's weird having them on the same tier, but that's something that'll flesh itself out as we get to the end. It probably kicks Mimwu out, or as we progress, we find that Arc moves up to B tier. So I'm not gonna make that move quite yet. Now Arya is a character that we haven't actually seen yet. Oh, chance to dual cast white magic abilities. Why was I just thinking of that as a... I guess I'll throw him in B. I mean, you can only be so bad with 35% chance to dual cast white magic. Alright, we'll move him up to B for now. Arya is a character that we have not seen. She will be released very, very shortly, in a couple weeks, in the Final Fantasy III event. So let's take a look at her. It's like a little early preview of the banner that's coming up. So Arya doesn't have a whole lot going for her. Just a Super Soul Break and a Burst. So probably not going to be a Premier Healer. But maybe with a Premier Burst she can get there. Curaga Medica, good. Minor Resist Fire. That's the first time we've seen that. How do we feel about Minor Resist Fire? Well, let's go take a look at what that actually means. Minor Resist Fire means fire resistance plus 10%. So it truly is a minor fire reverse imperil. So that's a flat 10% damage reduction from fire damage. How do we rate that as a... I thought Magicites gave a 20%. The medium. It's worth taking a look at. Yeah, medium resist ice all allies. Fire main. Wait a second. That sounds like 4-star. Yeah. Okay, so 3-star is minor. 4-star is medium. It's like fire main. I don't remember that Magicite. So 10% minor resist. Not going to weight it too high. Because that means that Arya is... So a lot of healers are good. And the reason why they're good is because they're useful across different teams, right? Well, Arya is not. If you're not getting any benefit from her minor resist fire, then what the heck, right? It's just a Curaga Medica burst. So either she has some spectacular commands, or this is a below average burst soul break. At least we see an instacast. Oh, and at least we do have a good command, which is the same command that Sarah gets. Is an instant Curaga with high regen and a Medica. Where do we put Arya? I suppose that depends on where we go from here. Magic Blink 1 and HP Stock 2000s. That is a 2-effect Soul Break, Super Soul Break, where good supers have 3 effects. Does that help her as a healer at all? Not really. At all. So this is a below average Super Soul Break. And an iffy, a strange burst. Could be good. I mean, I actually feel like she would be pretty decent. Really good. Against fire damage. But that's just... that's not as useful as a lot of healers are. So I think I'm probably going to be putting her in B. But let's take a look at her other stuff. She does get a Legend Dive. Reduces damage taken by fire attacks by X%. So they're really like tripling down on this fire crap. So Arya doesn't work elsewhere. She's still B, Payaso. Because of that burst. 25% chance to grant heals plus 30% for 10 seconds to the user after using a WHT ability. This is a good LMR. So, we're not legend diving Arya. Who I would love to encounter the person that legend dives Arya, but the LMR is good. Oh, I forgot. I forgot about Arc. We're going to remember on Arya. Arya gets Bard 5. That easily puts her in B. Dancer 4 easily puts her in B. High B. And I doubt it, but I don't expect to see... No, she doesn't get support 4 through record spheres, so support 3 does not matter at all, but support 4 would have. Arya being a bard is a very good thing. So Arya's B. She moved from low B to high B. Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about that I forgot to at the end of ARC is I want to put a date. If I weighted the 10% fire resistance higher, then maybe J-Snick, but I don't. Right, anti-fire is niche, and it's not a big reduction. It's very, very small. So what I want to do is put a date on characters who are not currently at full strength, and Sarah is one of those. So what I got open here is my ability list, or sorry, event list on the website. And I will scroll up to the Final Fantasy 1 event, which I have ETA'd for January 18th. So it will actually be a while before Sarah becomes enabled. This does not affect their grade. I am stating this information along with their grade, so you can adjust it accordingly to how much you care for it. No, there is no plus or minus. Because that, all I mean by low B, high B means that they're on the edge of moving tiers, Paranoid. Which will become more relevant as we go through the list. Oops. Minwoo. Damn, man. Minwoo gets his USB through the Maiden event, right? I'm not really sure what you're asking anymore, Paranoid. I thought I explained it. Where does Minwoo get his USB? Is that on the next 3 event? Does he already have it? Oh, he already has it. Does he already have it? This is only a 1 banner, and it's definitely not on there. Where's Minwoo get his USB? Oh my god, Minwoo's Final Fantasy 2. Oh, that's embarrassing. He just got it. Okay. So he is currently as bad as he can be. Yeah, I'm losing it. Ark gets his Burst Soul Break 2 on the Aria event. November 2nd. And that's where he gets his Legend Dive, so that's why that's relevant. And Arya is also November 2nd. All right, moving along, we get to... Sorry, my cats are having a fight. Not my cats. We get to Rosa. Starting with Rosa's BSB, okay? 5 group attacks, so that's crazy bad. Kiraga Medica, though, so the Medica doesn't suffer. However, it is just a Kiraga Medica. So, right out of the gate, Arya is a better character than Rosa. Because at least Arya gets 10% fire resistance instead of 5 group attacks. Let's take a look at her commands. Non-instant cast Kiraja that grants Magic Blink 1. After using single target Magic Blink 1 stuff and seeing Rose's BSB in play, I used to think that this was kind of neat. It's actually just not. So the fact that it loses instant cast status to gain Magic Blink 1 on a single character is no good. But she does have a Medica command, so it's a BSB. Kiraga entry and a Medica command. So below that we have Divine Heal. This is a really fantastic Super Soul Break from back in the day. Kiraga Medica and Magic Blink. Long cast time though. That's how old it is. But nothing else of note from that point on. So we see why Divine Heal doesn't really matter all that much, because Rose's Benediction is one of the most celebrated, probably the most celebrated healer USB. I don't think it's the best, but it's still pretty fantastic because of Rose's ability pool. And we're going to go take a look at that in a sec. The reason why Rose's USB is as good as it is because Rosa has support 4 access. This allows Rosa to make full use of what her USB offers, which is delay. She delays damage. She instantly casts it for a Kiraga Medica. So this is going to heal everybody to full for the most part. But here, the runner here is that it also grants HP Stock 2000 and Magic Blink 1. And what this does is it delays damage, which gives her time to Wrath 2 more times, since you're going to be running her with a Striker. It gives her time to Wrath 2 more times, which grants 540 Soul Break points, which is another Soul Break, and use it again, and then just reset the process. And if you are taking any incoming damage during the fight, there will be times when you only have to delay 1 turn in Wrath for 270 Soul Break points, and then cast it again. So this is just a fantastically easy to use USB because of Rose's Wrath access. Though just the HP stock is nice, but Magic Blink 1 will cause you to lose out on Soul Break meter generation. I did say 540. I'm positive I said 540. So I guess I'm not talking or speaking clearly enough. So moving on from here, Legend Spheres. As we've seen, that Rosa has a kind of a dumpy burst soul break, but an excellent USB. She gets her dual silence resistance, which is good, and WHD 9%. So typical dive there. But as we see here, she has the same awful Legend Materia that Minwoo has, 75% chance to remove a few statuses to the user after being afflicted with them. And an awful LMR. So it's weird. It's weird considering what she's capable of with her USB. I think her USB is so powerful that at the moment I'd probably consider her low S. But as you're going to see, as we evaluate a lot of these healers, a lot of them have dual capabilities available to them. Rosa doesn't. Rosa just heals. So she's a healer that you're going to want for, fights where the only difficult part of the fight is the immense amount of incoming damage, and something that's a instantly magic blink and cause you to skip. I have to consider her low S because she doesn't have a lot of the extended capabilities of a lot of the lot of healers do, and she may get pushed out of S. I know it's crazy. But when all you do is heal, there's other healers that that take command over you. And Rosa is capable of everything that she needs to do immediately right now. So no need to put a date on that. Let's hope that Rosa gets a BSB2 in the future. I think Rosa could be a really good character. I just have fallen out so far out of favor with characters or with healers that don't do anything but heal. Yeah, you could say that, sure, that's their job, but there are healers that can also heal, but also, add to the party in other meaningful ways. Yeah. Anyway, do you have a specific amount of characters set for certain tiers? No. Or you're just looking at the overall effectiveness of the tier and deciding who goes where? Yes. I don't think broken is the right word for Rosa. I don't think that's the right word for it. From what I've seen from characters like Vanille and Ishtola with their dual casting and their extremely potent healing, I think Rosa only does that job slightly better than they do. Who's next? Porom. This is a quick one. DNA forgot about Porom. Thing is, I don't really have to call. Would you consider, Yuna with her Burst Soul Break 2 a really, really strong healer? Yeah, that's a fair point, Dreamlord. Right. Exactly. I would say no as well. However, it's enough. It's enough to heal the hardest content in the game by herself. So why would I want more healing over what it takes to heal the hardest content in the game when I could have a healer that does something like Yuna does and buffs the party magic and mind 30% at the same time? No, it's not. Wow, that's interesting. I've got videos that show proof of it, but that's okay. That's cool. Oh, you can't. Wow. Cool. So Porum's BSB. Cura Medica, Magic and Mind 30%. This is the exact same entry as Yuna's. Let's take a look at her commands, though. They're effectively the same character. Aphmau and Yuna. Exactly the same amount of healing. The only difference is she single target cures if I decide to use her command 1, which I don't always do. I mostly just use her command 2. The command 1 is just if I can fit it in. And then I get, what, 10k damage over the course of the fight from her? Anyway, Porom. Non-instant cast Curaga and removes KO. So it's a Curaze with Curaga potency. Max Rage, she can. She actually can. But I mean, it's just a Curaga. It's a full cast time Curaga. So this is an awful command, but at least it's a healer BSB, right? It's got the command too. Well, it's fine. It's exactly the same as Yuna's and Aphmau's, effectively. For everything that matters. You get the Magic of Mind plus 30% and the Cura Medica on entry. So if this is what you've got, then this is what you've got. Yeah, we'll discuss Yuna and Aphmau when we get to them. Because it is very important. I'm going into these characters a lot when it comes to extended capability. So the burst isn't bad. It really has an awful command 1. But the entry is so good that it kind of makes up for it. But anyway, Twin Star, Super Soul Break 2 grants Twin Star for 25 seconds. If I remember correctly, this is 30% attack. Oh, God, I'll just look it up. %30 attack, 15% mind, and critical chance 50%. It's actually a pretty cool Super Soul Break. It's a unique status too, so all the stacks, except for the critical chance. Because of the way critical chance is calculated, you're not buffing your critical chance, you're fixing it to 50%. So if someone other critical chance buff comes along, it also fixes your crit chance to 50%, so it's not an increase. But this attack and mind buff would actually stack with any attack and magic or attack and mind buff. It's actually pretty cool. Super Soul Break. Would I use it, though? I guess so. Like, that's a healer that buffs up physical parties. And on her BSB, she buffs up magical parties. That's not bad. It's not bad. I got her at B so far. She's useful. She's useful, and she's got a Medica entry and a Medica command. That's better than C. I believe Porom is a Mimwu with her abilities. And I don't believe Porom has legends, a legend dive. No, she doesn't. So she needs something more. She's B, but she's in dire need of an upgrade. She's definitely not as bad as Minwoo. She just has a Minwoo ability coverage. That's all. I'm actually just disappointed that I mentioned her name in the same sentence as Minwoo's. And Porom has everything she needs right now. Well, she needs a new banner. She needs a new event in Japan, which I hope she gets soon. Let's take a look at Lena. After I see... Jesus. So, it's getting really hot in here. Nighttime needs to come, like, right now. Like, right now. Lena's BSB. Phoenix of Tycoon. She has a lot of soul breaks. Wow. Grants HP 55, grants re-raise 40%. Wow. Resistance to mine 30%. That's nice. But this is... Look, we can compare this to Sarah's. This is exactly like Sarah's entry, except take away the magic blink from Sarah and add re-raise 40% instead. Which one would I rather have? I don't know. I do have AC, but she does get another burst, and I will go over that when we get to it. But her burst Soul Break 1 is one of those offensive types. At least she has a Medica command, so that's okay. 4 single attacks, mind plus 15% to the user for 15 seconds. So that's mind to the user, which is nice, and that stacks with the mind that she's getting on her entry. So she actually deals a fair amount of damage with this command. But no and holy means probably not that much damage after all. So by having a flimsy attack command instead of, what could have been a better healing command, that stinks. So we'll consider that a blank and just say that this is a basic healer soul break. Nothing special about it. BSB2, Warm Blessing. So this will be coming much later. Restores HP 85, so Kiraga Medica. Grants minor resist ice, so exactly the same as Aria's, but minor resist ice instead. And her commands are instant Kiraga, mine 30% for 25 seconds. I like that. I would prefer the regen, but instant Kiraga's fine. And buffing people's mind is not a bad thing. Hopefully she buffs her own mind in the process. But anyway, this is better than her BSB1, definitely. At least it's a true healer. A real healer BSB with 2 healing commands. Instead of healing command and whatever the heck that is. So minor resist ice. Well, hopefully her legend dive doesn't go as deeply into resisting ice as Aria's did. So those are her BSBs. They're fine. Definitely prefer that BSB too. But let's take a look at our supers. Oh, this is actually a pretty decent super. Resistance plus 50% and Kiraga. I don't probably... You may want to use this instead of a Burst Soul Break 1 at some point, but I think I'd probably stick to a Burst Soul Break 2 if I had that. We're not going to get Messianic Rebirth. Flames of War. Shout Light. It's a Heiska and a Booska. I don't use it anymore, so I wouldn't expect anybody else to either. And I got this pretty early on. So really not much going on for her in her super section. It's not a big surprise. But we do get something really nice when it comes to her Ultra, which is attack, magic, and resistance, a tri-buff, and grants HP stock 3000. This is a great thing to start off a fight with. Because that HP stock, don't care if you overheal. And from that point on, you can do other things, like, cast Kirata, or, you've got a couple turns of a buffer. So this is great for, situations in which you want your other characters to do other things, but have Lena, like, use an RW or use Protector or Shelga. And just, take it easy for a couple turns before you really need to start healing. Let's take a look at her abilities, which I believe she's just a dancer. A 4-star dancer. Yeah, she's a 4-star dancer, which is nice. Nice addition to her ability set. Definitely nice for her USB. For the reasons I explained, instead of just using Protector or Shelga as, non-healing abilities, she can also dance as well, which is pretty useful. I wouldn't put her on the same level as the bards, like, Sarah and Deuce, but still pretty cool. Pretty cool that she has that ability. Legend Spheres. Ooh, this sucks. Minor silence resistance and minor water resistance. The only benefit I see here, minor resistance doesn't do a whole lot. It's a very minor effect on things. And the water resistance... the only benefit I can see from this is that she can use the Gigas Armlet, and since these resistances, if they're elemental in nature, do not stack with the resistances found on accessories, having minor water resistance means she actually cancels out the water vulnerability on the Gigas Armlet. So use the Gigas Armlet on a fight where, a lot of time DNA knows Gigas Armlets exist. So they'll design some fights sometimes that do multi-elemental damage that a Gigas Armlet would be great against, and then they throw water damage at you at the same time. In this case, Lena can use a Gigas Armlet and cancel out that vulnerability and make it a really nice accessory for her. I'm not going to say that's a huge benefit. I'm just making note of it. This is actually a really poor set of Legend Spheres. Because while other people have valid resistances, this silence immunity or this silence resistance is not enough where you would not want to take a silence resistance accessory into a fight because it's that ineffective. So she doesn't have that while other people do. And that Gigas Armlet thing is not going to be that useful. It may be, once in a blue moon. Sea Lion and Tsunami is a good example, yeah, because Sea Lion does a lot of ice damage. At least she has the WHT, heals 9%. So off to a bad start, but usually a Legend Dive is more affected by the Legend Materia. 40% chance to grant heals plus 30% for 10 seconds to the user after using a WHT ability. I think how good is this? How good is this? It's not great. Yeah, I don't think it's great. I like her LMR a hell of a lot more. I think a 40% chance to grant heals 30% is not as good as WHT abilities restore 15% more HP. I think Lena's one of those characters where I think I would probably ignore her Legend Dive because of the bad the bad Legend Spheres as well as the bad Legend Materia. But if you get her LMR, this is a really nice LMR. Percentage chance to cast a group heal, 25, which is the same as a command 2 on a burst soul break after using a white magic ability. So this is a really excellent LMR for Lena for the use of her USB. Because you use her USB and then she becomes a single target healer. So what you do is you have the possibility of using a Medica while you're using single target cures with her. It as is, I really like her USB because that is a great tri-buff. Magic and attack. So I like this LMR. I do not like her Legend Dive. Where are we going to put Lena? Yeah, you can. It does work with her burst commands as well, but that, like, as we've been talking about, that's kind of an overhealing thing. Not so much. I really love it when Ishtola's command 2 double casts, so this would be like double casting a command 2. A. I think the USB is good enough to say A. Yeah. And she does have a fairly good healer burst for her burst soul break 2. So I think A is fine and valid. Debuffing utility too. That's true. Lena's BSB2 shows up on February 15th. Realms up. Starting with Star Prism. 3 group attacks, 3.13 each. Poop. Restores HP, cure level to all allies, and grants last stand all allies. Grants haste and burst mode. This is great. Last stand is such a useful status, and it's rare as well. Currently in global, this is the only form of healer burst last stand. That'll change in like 2 months, I think. Final Fantasy 12 introduces Penelo's BSB2, which gives us a last stand on a burst, but for now it's the only one. So this is a nice entry, notwithstanding the 3 group attacks. First command, instant cast Kiraja. Fine, standard. Medica command, fine, standard. So good burst, because it has that last stand entry and good commands. Brush up, haste and critical chance 50% to all allies. I'll tell you from experience, this is a good soul break. Unattainable now because it's not even a super, but still, it's actually a really good soul break. I use this soul break on a different character for my Magicite. Who? Is it Hydra? No, Living Flame. My Living Flame Clear uses this. Living Flame sub 30, so it's no slouch. It's actually a really interesting soul break to have on a healer. Portrait of Lakshmi used to be considered really good. Not so much anymore. Ink Blast causes blind 100%. Alright, so nothing happening down there. But let's move to the other. In the other direction, we see Realm's Divine Portrait. Restores HP 85, grants Stone Skin 30%, and grants Instant Cast 1. I can't hide my my fanboyism for the Instant Cast 1 healer USBs. And they're both instant. This is Instant Cast. Instant Cast to party, great thing. The fact that it's also a Curaga Medica and Stone Skin 30%, also really good. Because if there's one issue with healer USBs, is that sometimes if they don't have extended capability of protecting the team or healing them with, you know, HP stock or something, sometimes you can fall behind on healing. Realm doesn't have that issue that much. Not only does she grant herself instant cast on the next turn, but she also grants Stone Skin 30% to the party, as well as instant curing. This is just one of the best, probably the best healer USB in the game. I'm trying to think of something that I would rate higher than this. Even Aphmau's has haste instead of Stone Skin. I'll take the Stone Skin over it. One of the few times that I'll take Stone Skin and consider it good because it's valuable in this context. Yeah, I can't think of any healer USB I think that's better than this. And no, not Rose's. Because not only does this USB heal, but it also buffs the party. It does all the things. So moving on to Realm's abilities. Black Magic 3. Summoning 4, so she can use Carbuncle. Nah, she's really just a White Mage 5. And she can clear trash. with Madoween or Veilfor or something. But she's just a White Mage, so not much happening there. Aiko's USB is very good. It is. Anyway, Legend Spheres, double silence immunity. Good. Good. Isn't she Black 4? No. I think that's Vanille. Vanille is Black 4. So, 2 silence resistances and 2 WH heals. That's great. But we do notice that she has a bit of a problem happening in her Legend Materia. Fine Legend Materia 1, but her Legend Materia 2 is reduces damage taken by fire, ice, lightning, earth, wind, water, holy, dark, and poison attacks by 15%. This is better than it sounds, but I don't know if it's worth using motes on. I think Realm is a really excellent character outside of her Legend Dive, kind of like Rosa is. Stop is Black Magic 3, yes. But this is better than it sounds because this resistance, it's not resistance, and that's the key. So this just straight up damage reduction. I know that sounds like it'd be a resistance, but it's not. Will actually stack with resistances from accessories. So if you ever feel like Realm is taking too much damage, and notice that I believe every single Magicite dungeon is represented here: fire, ice, lightning, earth, wind, water, holy, and dark, and poor poison. This does mean that she is protected a hell of a lot, and this may be of importance when you consider that Realm, her primary strength is her USB, and her BSB being a close second. But because her USB is her primary strength, that means she's going to be single target curing. And one of the ways you can improve how someone cures single target in the party is to have someone that self heals, or have someone that significantly reduces the damage that they take, whether through minor or major resistance accessory or something like that. Realm can stack up resistances using this and an accessory and take very minuscule amounts of damage over the course of a fight. And if one person is taking very tiny amounts of damage, that makes single target curing more effective, and possibly, if you've got the team for it, more effective than a rave effect. So Realm being a character that relies heavily on single target curing because of her USB means that this Legend Materia 2 might actually be good, but really you should make sure that you don't have anybody else that can make heavier use. Curada is another example of something that makes single target curing better, because it makes it so you don't have to go back to that character for a while. Hopefully, it's not one of the best legend dives in the world. I'm not gonna split hairs, but it's not awful. It's not like undiveable. So Realm, by virtue of having one of the better healer BSBs in the game, and one of the best, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the best healer USB in the game, she's S tier. And she's S tier now. Doesn't have to wait. Now, it's not Rosa awful. Realm even has a more useful LMR than Rosa does. Rosa's LMR is awful. So moving on to Aerith. Check the temperature again. It's down to 95 Fahrenheit. And sorry, it's dark in here. Why is Mimu still in C? Because I just haven't got around to adjusting him yet. He's D. He's D. Well, there's nobody in C yet. Once a healer that does something more than Mimu gets put in C, then we'll knock him down. Yeah, it's dark and I have no lights on because I'm trying to generate the least amount of heat possible. Today is the first day that I have lamented living in the desert as I do now. The temp is getting high here. It's getting so high that it's blowing. It's causing my house's circuits to trip because the air conditioners were working so hard. Anyway, Aerith. Right, exactly, Ricky. White Materia, Burstal Break 1. 5 group attacks, poop, but it's a Cure Augmentica. So it's a Cure Augmentica. Slow commands, slow command Kiraja. The mine 30% is not to self, so can't really consider it that much of a boon. Because you got to get lucky that it falls on you in order for it to be as effective as you want it to be. And normal command 2. Burstal Break 2 will be coming out very shortly. Is a Cure Augmentica and is another one of those resistance ones. Minor resist dark. And what do her commands look like? She gets an instant Kiraja. Okay, good start. But it blows the BSB out of contention for a good BSB when you give us a command 2 like this. Attack and resistance plus 30% for 20 seconds. Grants high regen. This is an okay command. The problem here is that it's not healing, and it doesn't trip off anything else that she does. I can't say that this is completely useless, because there are teams that revolve around one or two mostly, and sometimes one character to deal all of their damage. So you don't have to spend too much time buffing. And Aerith's heal throughput is probably unmatched. So if she spends a turn using this on your primary damage dealer and then just simply goes to healing after that, it's not like she's lacking. So I've talked favorably about other healers before that have, extended capability. They are able to buff as well as heal, so I can't knock on this too hard. Because Aerith, as we're going to find out when we take a look at her legend materia, heals so much, and it is given a lot of boon by the fact that this is an instant cast cure. So I'm just gonna advance to her legend materia so I can talk about this further. But first we'll do our USB. That's instant cast Curaga and grants shell and HP stock 2000 to the user. Or not to the user, shell and HP stock. This is one of the first healer USBs, and unfortunately is one of those USBs that I consider a super soul break, because it's instant cast Curaga and HP stock, where shell is like the half effect, easily mimicable by someone using an ability over the course of the fight. And so it's not a dead effect, because it does at least prevent you from needing to spend a turn on someone. But if there's something I've found in my sub 30 attempts in Magicite and stuff like that, if speed is your issue, and that's what matters here, that's the only thing that matters when you feel that you don't want to bring this on someone else or herself. It's that there are turns to spare, and losing a turn casting Shelga on someone usually isn't going to impact your time. Very little, or if at all. So I don't really consider that much of a benefit. So this is more like a Super Soul Break USB. Still good. Instant cast Curaga and HP stock is fine. And it's worthy of having on her. It's just not one of the more powerful healer bursts. So Legend Spheres, or no, I think Aerith is just a straight up healer. She may have, I think she has summon 4. She has summon 5. Is that relevant? No. It's not relevant at all. But she has white magic 5. Of course. Legend Spheres for Aerith. Dual Silence, dual WHT. So good. Legend Materia. She has a 35% chance to group heal 25 after using a magic ability. So second time we've seen this. But this is a higher percentage than Lena gets. This is really nice, and if you remember Aerith's Burst Soul Break 2, she does not have a Medica command on her BSB, but that's okay. Because what you're going to be doing with her is you're going to buff your primary damage dealer with her command 2, and then all you're going to do with Aerith is spam her command 1. So spamming her command 1, which is Strong Cure, and having a 35% chance to just Medica anyway, means that Aerith isn't going to have any problems healing a party. So what's nice about Aerith and her BSB2, which I believe is her best soul break, in my opinion, means that Aerith can buff the party in a meaningful way. Unfortunately, it's attack and resistance, so it's only physical. So it's not as, all-encompassing good like Deuce and Sarah are, but still good. still good, still a nice added effect for her. And here we go further and add a 25% chance to dual cast with white magic abilities on her LMR. This is you know where this is going. Aerith has the highest heal throughput in the game, which means she can afford to possibly spend 2 turns using her command 2 because she's not going to have any issues healing the party. Spamming that command 1 and instantly healing the party while potentially 35% chance is a pretty good chance of also using a Medica as well as her instant cure. I kind of like her. I kind of like Aerith. I'm not... Bonkers is a bit much. She's definitely not A. She's, I think I'd place her... I think I'd place her in A. Sorry, she's definitely not S. I think I'd place her in A. But the caveat is the Aerith's BSB2 and LMR occur on a banner that's probably not up many people's alleys. But I don't think that should have any bearing on the ranking itself. But it's something that we'll talk about after. That's something we talk about after the tier is over. We go into the character's rating and be like, there's sub ratings that I'm going to be giving people, and one of them is a rating on availability. Availability is where does this person's gear occur, and does it make sense to go after them? Are they with other good things, so they make sense to, you know, it's a good investment to go after the banner that they're on. I don't think that Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 7 1 banner is very good, so it'll be a lower availability, but that doesn't affect her character grade, which I believe should be an A. All right, selfie. Okay, now it's getting hot and it's almost 7 p.m. here, so I'm turning my air conditioner on. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'm sorry if it is. Yeah, God, I need it. I need it so bad I'm burning up. If the stream goes out, I will be back. Hopefully the air conditioner stays on long enough to make the room tolerable. Then I can reset the circuit and go without AC for a little bit longer. All right, so selfie. Selfie's BSB1. 4 group attacks. Causes instant KO 100%. Well, that's really useful. Magic of Mind plus 30%. That's cool. But there's no heal attached to this. So that's a no good. That's basically a burst entry that has a lot of fluff and gives Magic and Mind plus 30%, which is not good. Let's take a look at the commands. Full cast time command, Kiraja. Grants high regen though. 2 single attacks. Removes positive effects. So this stinks. This is definitely better than Mimwu, I think. Mimwu Does give a Heiska. I guess that's better. I guess it's harder to get a Heiska in the party than... no. No, I'll take the buff. Anyway, they both suck. But she does have a BSB 2, which she eventually gets, which is really important because her BSB 1 is awful. Restores HP 85. Great. Kiraga Medica. Resistance plus 100%. That's actually extremely good. What we've been seeing from, like, new age contemporary BSB entries here is that people get, you know, a 10% minor elemental resistance, which makes them only good against a single element. Well, Selfie and her 100% resistance statistic is good against just about everything. So I really, really like this burst. This is the burst that Selfie needed very much. At least so far. And here we can see an instant cast Kirasha and a regular Medica command. Great. Great, it's a good burst. Thank goodness. Above that, oh man, Dream Stage. I'm sure everyone has fond memories of this super. This was the super. But, I guess it could still be useful. Now, I haven't used it. I used it in Sid missions for Final Fantasy VIII, but I don't actually need it for those Sid missions. It's more like I'm just making it it's a luxury. It's just a luxury. So, yeah, nothing really happening in her Soul Break area. We haven't really come up with many of those, have we? Supers for healers have been pretty uninspiring. Realm has a regular Soul Break brush up that was actually good, but anyway, moving on to her USB. Instant, Kiraga, Last Stand, and High Regen. Love this USB. Last Stand is nice. High Regen usually is just kind of a, that's a cool bonus, a 0.5 bonus instead of a full 1.0. But when it's combined with Last Stand, Last Stand is conquered by sap primarily, and also poison. And sap and poison are exclusive effects with high regen, or all forms of regen. So high regen cures sap and poison. So it removes the single weakness that Last Stand has. So those two being your added effects, along with the instant cast Kiraga Medica, this is an awesome USB. I really like this USB. So I like her BSB 2, and I like her USB. So not bad so far. I did see the Celerity 3, huh? Okay. Nice. She does get Black Magic 4 capability with her Record Spheres. Is that relevant? I don't think so. I know I use Stop on White Mages a lot, because they have a nice mind pool, but Stop is Black Magic 3. So I don't think that's relevant. Anyway, it is nice that she has Black 3 though, but not going to affect her rating. Selfie, dual silence and dual WHT. Good. Selfie, legend dive. 35% chance to dual cast white. Her LMR doesn't look particularly inspiring, but this is a great legend dive. I really like Selfie's legend dive. So Selfie's got a good USB, a good BSB, and a good legend dive. This is like high A. Anyone want to make a case that she actually moves into S? No, I can't. She's a healer that also gives Last Stand. And Last Stand, you know what? Last Stand is really powerful. The yellow art looks cool. 20% chance to grant Last Stand to the target after using a single target white magic ability that restores HP to an ally. Yeah, 20% is low. And Last Stand to a single character. Yeah, I don't know. Is there a reason she shouldn't be an S? Yes, Gutsy. It's just the 20% is so low. It's kind of more of a gimmick tier percentage. If it was like 30%, I'd feel a lot better about it. Is there a reason she shouldn't be an S? Because she doesn't do anything special? You know what's really crazy? I'm going to catch a lot of flack for it. And here's my issue. Speaking on what Pochi just said. I kind of like Selfie better than I do Rosa. No, she's going in A. For now. I think what Selfie brings to the table with Last Stand is more than Rosa does. I'll have to mull that over. I'll mull that over. Adia. I'll update. Why I like Last Stand more than Magic Blink is that Magic Blink is a purely defensive function, and it can actually hurt you, because when you Magic Blink something, you don't generate any Soul Break gauge from it. So if you're able to heal the party without the use of Magic Blink, then Magic Blink just hurts you. While Selfie's Last Stand on her USB creates offensive potential, because it allows you to get greedy in ways that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get greedy. And yeah, I don't know, I value that higher. Yeah, God. I think it's just fear that's keeping me from putting Rosa in A tier. But I think it may happen. Echo, Prayer of the Lost. Restores HP 85, fine so far. Grants critical chance 50% for 25 seconds. Really nice, really nice. Love this burst. Let's take a look at the commands. I do not believe that 50% crit received from Healer has been mimicked yet. It's a unique burst. Echo, Prayer of the Lost, regular cast time, Kuraja, grants physical blink 1, and a regular Medica command. So not a big fan of the command 1, but she has a command 2 and an excellent entry. Flames of Rebirth is awful. It's an awful soul break, and it takes forever. I don't know what they were thinking with this soul break, but like Eiko just kind of sits there with this dumb look on her face for like 3 seconds during the middle of the animation, and you just want to blow your head off. So that's a suck super. This regular Soul Break Emerald Light is definitely better. And nothing going on down here. Eiko's USB, Instant, Kiraga, grants Last Stand, and Haste. I like it. It's a side grade. It's a side grade to selfies. Very good. So you don't get the regen, so it doesn't cancel out Sapper Poison, but it gives you haste, which is basically the great destroyer of Dispel mechanics. I've used it many times as an RW for that, but really just a really, really potent USB. I like it a lot. Abilities. We do have to look at her abilities, because she's one of them special ones, sort of. Yeah. Eiko has White Magic 5, Summoning 5, not really relevant. Bard 4, does she increase her Bard capability with her Record Spheres? Because Bard 4 is fine. There are buffs for Bard at rank 3. She does move to Bard 5. Wow. She can't use Allegro Con Moto because it's an unlocked 6-star. So I have no idea why they did this. But 6-star abilities that are unlocked through the Nightmare Dungeons, those you can Record Sphere yourself up to and to be able to use. But 6-star abilities that are unlocked through moats, like Bard and Allegro Con Moto are, those do not get upgraded. So, say for instance, Zell can increase his Celerity 4 to Celerity 5 with his Record Sphere. So that makes him able to use Dervish and Northern Cross. But in Eiko's case, she increases her Bard from 4 to 5-star, but cannot use Allegro Con Moto because she does not get upgraded to 6-star. That's unfortunate because the 6-star Bard is extremely good, but at least she has access to the new 5-star Bard abilities and doesn't have to use the 3-star Bard abilities. Still, it's a nice addition to Eiko, especially when you consider she buffs physical parties with her BSB. So moving on to her Legend Spheres. Double Silence, WWHT. Eiko is a Final Fantasy IX character, which means, like most of them, she gets a trance mode as her LM2. So that's kind of nice, as long as it's a good trance mode. They usually are. So let's take a look at it. Magic and Mind 30%, nice. Cast speed times 2, nice, for 25 seconds. Really, really like this. I really like this. That's a blanket cast speed times 2, so she can do this as either a bard or a healer or both. Just the global cast speed times 2 is just great, because that makes her an ideal user of RWs as well, since it'll have those cast speeds. I really like this LM2 a lot, because this increases not just her healing capability, but her all capability. And the magic plus 30% does make her a summoner. She could do that. I don't know if I would ever, like, consider that something that would switch her grade at all, but it's probably something she does better than any other white mage in the game, at least. Not necessarily. About as good as Yuna and Aphmau, which is not that good. So back to Legend Materia, and we see that Eiko gets an LMR for 25% chance to dual cast white. Wow, this is a lot of healing and a lot of utility with that global cast speed ×2 for 25 seconds, along with a healer with a burst that allows her to increase the offensive potential of the party. So she can heal as good as anybody in the game with this Legend Dive and this LMR, and she buffs them too. I honestly think Eiko's an easy S tier. Like, all of this combined with a USB that does something completely different, granting everyone last stand in case that's an important thing for the. It's just Eiko can do so many different things. I think I would, but not over someone else's Morden. Like, I'd trigger, like, Zidane's first. But if, like, I had the capability, say, you know, what's a team? My water team uses Bart's and Titus, and on the first turn they use life siphons. They just life siphon the boss. Neither of them have trance modes. Nobody in the game has trance modes. Eiko would be a fantastic healer. A fantastic healer in that party, and all they have to do is use those life siphons on her on first turn, trigger a trance mode, and boom, we're off to the races. Easy stuff. I would force it. Yeah, I'm in. S. I can even make a case for A. I think that's an easy S. Alright, so we're starting to flesh out some categories, and we got 4 people in S, which is a lot. And, well, this doesn't bode well for the fringe, which means I'm probably going to make a lot of people angry when I move Rosa out of A, or Rosa out of S and into A at one point. Yuna up next. Yuna BS. Yuna BSB1. Let's try to shave off as much time as I can and say that Yuna's BSB1 is a meme and nothing more. So let's move right into her Yuna's BSB2. Restores HP 55, Magic of Mind plus 30%. We've seen this before once already on Porom. Ooh, wow. Really overshot that, didn't I? So Yuna gets one of these summoning things. This is the first one we've seen on a healer, I believe. Her first command is weird because you need to spend a turn doing absolutely nothing to enable the summoning of Veilfor, which is unfortunate. But sometimes you can make a case for it if you just don't have to. But the problem with using Yuna and her BSB2 is she doesn't heal for a whole lot. So you rarely have the opportunity to do that in a fight that is actually difficult. So not really a big fan of the command 1, but at least the command 2 at its very base is restores HP 25 Medica, the base Medica. Here's the case for Yuna not using her command 1. And there's probably not a lot of people who notice this, but a lot of white mages as we've been seeing inside their record dive, as Lashad has been posting, she gets heals plus 9%. And that's WHT class heals at 9%. If you use Yuna's command 1 and summon Veil 4, that changes her command 2 into the second version, Breath of the Heavens S. And minimum damage, and it does damage and restores HP 25 to all allies. But what it does to the command is it changes it from a WHT command into an SUM type command, which means it no longer gains benefit from plus healing capability from her record spheres, from from any other sources. So I think in most cases, in difficult fights, I'd probably just ignore her command 1 altogether and use her command 2 straight up to keep it WHT, so it gets benefit from the plus healing. And it's not like the damage done by summoning Veil 4 and using the command 2 is all that much anyway. It's a 4.8 multiplier because it's area of effect, so it's reduced. And it's based on our magic, which probably isn't going to be all that big to begin with unless you've legend dived her, which I don't recommend. We'll go take a look at her legend dive right now. Not her legend dive, but just her character sheet. Yuna has White Magic 5, Support 3, Summoning 5, and Sharpshooter 5. Wow. Wow, that's useful. So she has White Magic 5. The summoning just isn't that relevant. I can't think of a reason why this would be relevant. Unless you wanted to... You're running a team with, I don't know, other magic buffs, and you just wanted to use her entry to cure, and then buff the party and have her, join in the fun with area, AoEing with summons. Yeah, I guess. Sure. But it's not that big of a deal. Legend Spheres for Yuna. Dual Silence, dual WHT, pretty important. However, she's got a pretty bad legend dive, so doesn't matter. Yuna doesn't even have an LMR yet. Wow, what the hell? Like, Global and JP like Yuna as a character. Where did Yuna go? Why is she falling off the map? Anyway, so her LM2 increases base magic by 25% of base mind. So it's not her buffed mind, it's her base. It's before you enter the fight. It takes all of her mind and gives her enough magic equal to 25% of it. Again, this helps out her for her summoning capability, which isn't that big to begin with. So this is really bad legend dive as far as I'm concerned. Oh my goodness. Did I skip her USB and her soul breaks? I'm sorry. I went off the map. Off script. Miracle Veil. God, I'm sure people are tired of seeing that soul break. It's been on 15 banners so far. And just a bunch of crap. Otherwise. Well, let's take a look at our USB. This is one of those USBs that I don't like. First strike against it. Healer USB that is not instant cast. Damn it. Second, Cure Raise. Only helpful when you've screwed up. If you don't screw up, not useful. Last Stand is different because you can rely on Last Stand to keep your party alive so you can do important things. Because, you know, everyone keeps their buffs, they keep their haste, their protecta, etc. Cures means that they've died, which means they get rezzed, and all they have going for them, because this resolves first, they get the haste in the last stand after they've revived. That's just not enough to make a character useful, so, you know, buffs need to be recast and stuff like that. And because it is not instant cast, it's tough to align with buff recasts. This USB is a multiplayer all-star, but for single-player content, which is the harder content, multiplayer isn't that difficult. This is turning down the difficulty on already easy stuff, or easier stuff. A safety net that I just don't really care about that much. Okay, so how do we feel about Yuna? We've taken a look at everything she has to offer. It really, Yuna's strength revolves around her BSB2. I think B tier, because of the strength of her BSB2, I think she gets B. High B, yeah. She just got no supporting, like, capability elsewhere, unfortunately. Wow. Didn't realize that FMAO came next. Well, now that we've talked about Yuna, we get to talk about upgraded Yuna. FMAO, the girl with a funny name. First things first, realignment, her BSB. Restores HP 55, Cura, Magic Mind plus 30% to party. Good. This is the strength of Yuna. Let's see if we can add to it where we couldn't with Yuna. So FMAO also gets one of those summoning sets of commands. But there's a big difference here. And first of all, I went into it very deeply. FMAO has WHT across the board, so you are not penalized by using her command 1. She will get plus WHT heals for all of her commands, regardless. Realignment. Command 1 restores HP 60, so that's a Curaga. Right? No, it's a Cura. Still pretty nice. I've used it. Anyway, grants summon activate to user. So, unlike Yuna's command 1, which is a dead turn, FMAO's command 1 is not a dead turn. It actually does a single target cure, which I can personally say has been useful. There are times when I don't mind using the single target cure over the Medica command, so it's helpful to enable her command 2 to deal this, a tiny bit of damage. With more mind buffs, she could do more, but it's not like there's many ways to buff her mind beyond the buff that she gives herself with her BSB entry. Recasting the command 1 for single attacks, restores HP, removes summon. It's all lightning elemental too, by the way. I've never used it. I think I did use it once accidentally, but it's basically pretty much been use command 1 if I can, and then just use command 2. But you can use FMAO's BSB as a carbon copy of Yuna's BSB2 if you would like to. I have for certain because, or for certain fights, because she needs to She needs all the area of effect healing she can get. I think that happens on Bismarck. And that's fine. It's cutting it close, but it's a buffing burst soul break. You should expect that. Oh, if you do use the command 2, then you get 2 single attacks of 5.14 each, which is actually a pretty decent multiplier. It's nice that it's single target over Yuna's area of effect, so it does do more damage than Yuna's does. But it's still not much, so it's not that big of a deal. Magic. And Aphmau's is mind. Yes, paranoid. Aphmau's Super Soul Break grants Astra and High Regen. Only 2 effects. Not really that big of a fan. Maybe when Astra was more rare, I could have considered this to be better. But it's only a 2 effect Super Soul Break, and with Astra coming on Unicorn, Magicite, makes it really accessible to a lot more people, as well as it occurring on a lot more Soul Breaks these days. So I'm not going to consider this Super to be much of a benefit. But we do jump up to her USB at this point, and do see an immensely powerful USB, which is an instant cast Kiraga that grants haste and instant cast 1. The only other type other than Realms that does this. So not only does Aphmau have a buffing BSB that a healing buffing BSB, but also a healing and utility buffing USB. Also helps deal with that problem that Aiko's USB dealt with granting instant haste and the Medica after a lot of dispel mechanics, which is going to be useful for Ixion. This is just really a great USB to pair with a good buffing BSB. So let's take a look at her further. Aphmau she's a Monk 3. Wow, that's fantastic. She's a summoner, so same boat as Yuna. She can summon, but she's really just a white mage. Legend Spheres. Dual Silence, dual WHT. I'm sure you're going to get tired of that, if you haven't already. But that's desired, believe it or not. I don't think there's anything better than that for healers. Okay, here's where Aphmau trips up a little bit. WHT abilities restore 15% more HP on LM1. LM2 is grants re-raise 80% at the beginning of battle. It grants dual blink 1 to the user when re-raise is triggered. That's just terrible. That's really just terrible. There's no way I would ever Legend Dive Aphmau. Realm, this is the difference, is that Realm doesn't have a good Legend Dive, but she has one that you can consider and possibly do and make her. You would improve her capabilities in difficult fights. Aphmau does not. This is so useless. But her LMR is actually not bad. There's 25% chance to grant HP stock 2000 to the target after using a single target white magic ability that restores HP to an ally. Definitely meant to be used with her USB, since with her BSB you're likely going to be spamming command 2 because that's how you keep up with heals, because she's not really a really super potent healer with her BSB. How do we place Aphmau? I think Aphmau could have been S if she had a good Legend Dive. So I think we consider her high A. But those two, the USB and the BSB is two of the best in the game for healers. Two of the best. Is there going to be any weight put into a character's base primary stat? In this case, mind at 99. Only if it's an outlier. Like, we can arrange the list by White Magic 5, which should contain all of the characters on this list. Tyro. Yeah, Tyro is a suck bag when it comes to stats. But other than that, Rubicante. I don't see any real outliers here. Unit half mount 205, yeah. No big. No big outliers, I don't think. Yeah, we're gonna stick F mount and A for now. I feel bad about it because of how powerful I think her soul breaks are, but she really skates the edge. If there's a case for Afmao to be made for S, it's the fact that there's probably not a better magic buffing healer in the game. The difference is that two of the best healers in the game... Oh, no, that's not even true, because Sarah and Deuce are hybrid buffers. So yeah, I think Afmao at A is accurate. And both Sarah and Deuce get 35% chance to dual cast on their legend dive. That's the difference. That is the difference. Like, they can also contribute in a way that's very similar to the way Afmao does, but they are so frigging S tier. Oh god, just pound it. Oh yeah. Penelo. Penelo's BSB1. Evanescence. 8 random attacks, 1.5 each. Cura Medica. Magic at Mind plus 15% to party. Ugh. Ugh. That's a really piss poor buff. And gets 4 single attacks. At least she has the courtesy of giving herself a Mind 15% buff when she uses it. But Lena does this better, and I didn't rate Lena's very highly either. But at least it's a healer burst soul break. But Penelo does get a BSB too. Her BSB2 is a Curaga Medica and grants Last Stand. So this is an improved version of Realm's BSB, but as we see in the commands, it kind of falters. Her first command is not instant cast like Realm's is. It restores HP 105 and grants high regen and has a regular command. It's not worth looking at, Paranoid. It's just something that happens. So this is a good burst. It is a good burst. It's a Curaga Medica on cast and gives the party Last Stand. That's good. But if I'm comparing it directly to Realm's BSB, I would take Realm's BSB over this because I personally believe that the Instacast Curaja command that she has available to her is just really good. And makes up for the fact that Realm's entry is Cura. So that's her 2 bursts. You know what I got out of the habit of doing is saying when people got enabled. I'll do that after Penelo, because Penelo is one of the ones that has an event coming up in about a month and a half that is where she gets her cool stuff. Yeah, I don't care about any of that. But Penelo's USB Dance of Rapture is instant cast. Kiraga Medica grants physical blink 1 and HP stock 2000. This is really good. This is exactly like Rose's, except magical or physical blink instead of magical blink. Magical blink is usually more useful, but this is still good. It's just not benefited by the presence of having support for Wrath, so it's not spammable like Rose's is. But still a really good USB. Really good USB. And then we take a look at what Lena or Penelo is able to do from there. Rose's USB animation is pretty head scratchy. So Penelo is a healer as well as a dancer, so that's nice. Dancers are going to be getting new abilities soon. It's just unfortunate that this is more of a... DNA's kind of said debuffing is not as good as buffing anymore because of what they've done with the Magicite dungeons. But dancers are still valuable because, you know, Magicites are not the only content, and being able to area of effect debuff is a really nice thing to have. So Penelo being able to do that is a benefit that she has, that she can boast over other white mages. Dual silence and dual WHT. Surprise, surprise. Penelo. Outspoken girlfriend? I don't recall Penelo being the girlfriend of anybody, at least in Final Fantasy XII. I know she sort of kind of becomes one later in one of the side games. But anyway, WHT abilities restore 15% more HP and a 35% chance to group heal after using a dancer ability. Not that good. It's fine. It's cool because it does play into her, you know, dancer thingamajiggy stuff. I'm into you, man. Okay. Final Fantasy 12. Roll credits. So this is kind of a cool LM2, but definitely not as strong as you're gonna see on some other healers. But at least she does have a chance to dual cast her white magic abilities at 25% clip, so that's nice. So she, oh my goodness. All right. False alarm. I thought I was going to sneeze. I had to mute it. Bra event is tomorrow. Oh my god. They're trying to get in the way of my tier listing. I'll just do... I'll obviously just pause our tier listing event for Bra. So how do we feel about Penelo? She does dual cast white magic. She has a good USB. She has a good BSB 2. But she doesn't do anything more for the party other than heal. I think we need to put her in B. Okay, so Pinello becomes Pinello at this event, December 14th. Afmao is her right now. Yuna is her right now. Eiko. I believe Eiko. Is this the Marcus event? Yeah, this is the Marcus event. So this is the Eiko event. So December 7th. Selfie is the most recent Final Fantasy VIII event? Yeah. So that's going to be a ways off, February 1st. Yes, Pinello is a 5-star dancer. Aerith is the next Final Fantasy VII event, November 9th. Realm is here and now. Larsa. Y'all ready for the Emperor in Waiting? Larsa BSB. Liven, you've been waiting for this day for so long, Mog's record dive. Larsa, Curaga Medica grants Astra. Perfect. Nice and neat. Instant cast Curaja and Medica command. Perfect. Nice and neat. Love the burst. Manufactured Marvel. Grants Protect, Shell, and Stone Skin 30%. That's awful. Curaga Medica and Haste, whatever. Alright, so nothing going there. Larsa does get a USB eventually. Instant cast, Curaga Medica. A group Asuna, as well as putting Astra on party and high regen. So that's like a 4.5 effects. Because the high regen isn't paired with Last Stand. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't like the fact that they gave him a USB that it does make sense. It does cure sap. No, Astra does prevent sap, yes. But the Asuna that comes with the USB does not cure sap. It will cure poison, though. So the high regen is just there to cure poison, or cure sap. But with no last stand being available with this, poison and sap aren't a big deal. They're not worth curing, really, if you're not in a situation where last stand matters, I don't think. See, Lars is already able to Wrath, so he can just spam cast his BSB for Astra. I actually don't like this USB because it's a good USB. It just doesn't really extend the capability of the character. He already had an excellent BSB, and it doesn't stop being an excellent BSB. This just kind of tries to butt its way into the room and fails. Alright, so moving on to the character itself. I believe this is our second Wrath healer. Even better. White Magic 5 and Support 5, not Support Magic 4, which counts for something. Because that means that Larsa can be a support in 2 other ways as well. That means he can Affliction Break, as well as meaning he can be an Entrust bot. So he can be a healer while carrying Wrath and Entrust on him, which is really great. And again, this just requires his BSB. His USB is just... It's weird. It's weird how they gave him something, like, everyone else usually does something completely different and useful with their USBs, but Larsa doesn't. I'm just disappointed by that. Yeah, someone mentioned it already, Ricky. We're pumped. We're pumped for some Mog record dive. Legend dive. Legend Spheres. That stuff again. Silence and WHT. Legend Materia. 35% chance to dual cast white. Well, here's the issue. This is usually, obviously, a great LM2. But if you're using Larsa as an Entrust bot, he actually doesn't use white magic abilities. But if you're using his BSB, which... Again, we come back to the BSB being as valuable as it is. That gives him white magic abilities. 25% chance to grant Astra to target after using a single target white magic ability that restores HP on an ally. But that's fine because his Legend Dive is as strong as it is. Lars is weird. He's a very focused character on providing that Astra. The thing is, if you've looked ahead and seen what the 4-star Magicite dungeons do, you'll know that being able to spam cast Astra with his BSB and also heal, potentially dual casting heals, is extremely valuable. I think he's A for me, but I'll have to decide whether or not the knowledge that Lars is probably going to be one of the more powerful mages in the 4-star Magicite dungeons, I'll have to decide whether that is deserving of bumping him up to S. It's hard to compare them, Daddy. They do different things. I'm going to say Realm is the premier last stand white mage, but Larsa is the premier Astro white mage. There's no life siphon on Realm either. It finally turned off. We finally got this room to a livable temperature, which means... Ooh. Let there be light. Not blowing out my eyes anymore. And with Realm that there's no Astra, Daddy. Sometimes one's going to be more useful than the other. So I think Lars is going to be stuck in A for the moment, possibly going up to S. Nor do you need last stand in every single battle, Daddy. And this is the recent Final Fantasy XII event that Larsa gets all these things. So it's going to be a while before he gets there. The thing is, that's just his Legend Dive, which admittedly is really good. But Larsa with his BSB is already really powerful. Hi, Dawn. What is going on? Let's take a look at another forgotten healer in Vanille. Vanille's BSB is the only instant cast BSB for healers. Restores HP 85 at instant speed. Nice. Mind plus 30%. Nice. Commands. Where it falters a little bit, we got a single target, 2 single attacks at resistance minus 30% for 25 seconds. It was pretty nice back in the day. It's actually the most potent out of all of the offensive healer commands. Before, you know, unholy healers came around like Arc. Healer. So what's nice about Vanille is she has a huge amount of healing throughput because she heals at instant speed and then buffs her mind and then starts using her command 2 because obviously you're not using her command 1 to heal. It's really nice. Really nice. Vanille kind of falls off from that point on because she doesn't have anything good otherwise. Like Aerith, she has one of the first healer USBs, which got stuck with some bad effects. This is basically a super soul break that gives Astra an HP stock 2000. Aphmau, remove and resist. Grants Astra and high regen. Okay. Forgot that the secondary effect was high regen here, so that's even worse. I was looking for a comparable super soul break to look at Vanille's USB with. Well, it's bad. If you're using Vanille, it's for a BSB. No, Vanille's BSB1 is just holy. And I've used it. I know for a fact that it's just holy. So not really a whole lot going on here. She's just an instant healer. Character herself, Black Magic 4, White Magic 5, Support 2, Summoning 3. Yeah, so she's a white mage. Surprise, surprise. Not a whole lot surprise here either. Silence and WHT heals. Vanille, 35% chance to dual cast white magic abilities. I don't really care for her LMR. I thought it was cool. But that 2.0 magical is a very low multiplier for magical attack, so it's not doing a whole lot of damage. So you really need to gain some sort of benefit from the defense and resistance minus 20%, but I don't think that there's much benefit to be gained from that. So she's really just a dual casting healer with her BSB. That's it. That is the beginning and the end of Vanille. I actually think she's a pretty easy B. Vanille needs an update. She needs an update. She needs a USB 2. Y'shtola. Well, Y'shtola is going to boil down to one thing. But let's go into her. Asylum. Curaga Medica and grant Stone Skin 30%. The protective capability of this should be clear to everybody. And she has basic commands. Instant cast Curaja and a regular Medica. It's nice. That is the question, Ricky. That is the question. Ethereal Pulse is something I use in Torment 250s. But those aren't difficult anyway. Wall. Let me get back to Wall. Y'shtola's USB is a meme. It's, wow. Wow, I can't... I think I just get flummoxed every time I look at it and how freaking bad it is. Oh, wow. As a character, Y'shtola is a white mage that has access to support 4, which is always a nice thing to have. I suppose I'll talk about that here. Now, really, we need to wrap up Y'shtola in a very special way. She's got capability that doesn't exist on anybody else in the game. Dual silence resist and WHT heals 9%. Legend Materia. Y'shtola gets 35% chance to dual cast white magic abilities with her LM2 and an awful LMR. So let's just take a look at her Legend Dive, which is good. Y'shtola is healing throughput. She protects the party better than, or as good as the best people in the game do. I think she's not as good as Rosa, but only very slightly, because I think Rosa having the ability to last stand, or not last stand, she can't do that. Magic Blink means that she's not just pure healing, she can also instantly skip a mechanic in case it's a bitch, like Fenrir likes to use. So she's slightly not as good as Rosa in that regard. But Ishtola more than makes up for it in the fact that she can dual cast white magic abilities. But Ishtola is just a healer. And what Ishtola's grade boils down to is going to be S or A. How good is Wall? Is Wall worth putting her in S? It's unique. It's something that no other healer has, but is it worth something? Is it worth enough these days to get her there? My initial grade would be A. But that's because I don't know whether or not I've been lucky or with my gacha, but I don't use Wall anymore. Outside of like Magicite dungeons. And in Magicite dungeons, we have a wall, a 5-second increased duration wall, usable for free. So I don't find all that much value in it. Now, I'm open to putting her in S because I understand that what Wall brings to a party may be very, very, very much more than what I am used to. But I don't want to... I kind of want to put her in A. I want to put her in A, and I want to write up something about her. No. Okay, so this is what I planned on doing when I... what relic did I pull that replaced Stone Skin? Like Stone Skin 2, Wall? Nothing. I just run without it. I've shifted into the whole, the cliche that a great offense is better than a great, or makes up for a great defense. The best defense is a great offense. There you go. I don't know why I brain farted on that. So what I planned on doing was when I arranged or determined what an S tier of a tier list was. I haven't transcended. It's just I don't find Wall to be necessary anymore. It's kind of just a blanket to make you feel safe. But you don't actually need it to survive. And that's all I care about is survival. The minimum amount of survival to allow me to win the fight. Anyway, have a good night, Strider. So, anyway, I want to get back to what I was talking about. What I was going to do was all of the S tier characters, I was going to do a deeper dive into them when I go and use the webpage and talk about what makes them as good as they are and all the aspects that get them there. So what I was thinking about doing, my hesitation on putting Y'shtola in S tier is because I don't want to give people the wrong idea. I don't want newer players to look at this list because you got to understand that's a primary function of what this list is going to provide is a place for people who don't really want to think all that much about how deep they're going into the game and just want to go into it and do it. Shit, because that means they'd probably find a lot of value in Wall. Anyway, if I put Soul in S tier, that means I would go into a deep dive and I'd be able to talk about what Wall is, and that it could possibly be S tier for some people, but you know, as low as B tier for some others. Yeah. Well, I think that her presence as S tier for some people means that she deserves the mark. I'll put in there that I think what Lifeguard Dan said is a good line, and I'll probably reappropriate is once you get to a certain power level, the usefulness of Wall drops off. And yes, that is another thing that's worth noting is that Tyro's USB 3 is a much better version of Wall. They finally give us an upgraded Wall, which probably just removes the... Yeah. USB 3 for Tyro. So I'll mention that too. So I've got to put it here. As much as I don't actually want to, she's just such a weird character to evaluate because of that damn soul break. Well, I'm making this to help all players. If I just posted the lists and the tiers and nothing but the tiers and the letters, that would be for newer players. Not newer players, but players that don't want to spend as much effort into deep diving into the game, because that's the problem with making tier lists is people don't look past the grade itself when you need to. There's a reason where they are, and perhaps that reason doesn't apply to you. Perhaps this grade doesn't apply to you. So that's an issue sometimes. Why does Ishtola have to be so weird? So anyway, Ishtola is not S tier for me, but she could be for some people. So we'll move on. Move on. We need to get through this. I started this many hours ago. Iris. She's a pretty simple one. Iris BSB. HP 55. Grants Astra and Stone Skin 30%. Grants haste and burst mode to the user. Yeah, that's true. There's revisions that can happen later. I'm doing the discussions this week, and I'm going to do the conclusions next week, and everything's subject to change before then. I have 3 hours on healers, but you guys can't wait for the larger elemental categories. Well, it's not going to be as bad for other categories because we've set up a framework to evaluate. Some of these characters we go through pretty quickly. We're just taking a long time because this is our first tier, and it's going to take a little longer. That's just it. So Iris's Burst Soul Break is an excellent entry. Cura Medica, Stone Skin 30% Astra is awesome. Awesome entry. Just like Lars's. And Iris's burst commands, perfect. Just like Lars's, Instacast Kiraja and regular Medica. So that's a great burst. That's a great burst. And her BS, or her Super Soul Break that comes with it, is also a good super, which is a good thing because she doesn't have a USB yet. So 5 group attacks and grants haste and critical chance to all allies. That is a good and usable super. I have used it recently for a sub 30 team. It's that good. Just like Realm's Brush Up. So she has a good pair of soul breaks going for her right there. As a character, Iris is a white mage, monk 3, and a dancer 4, but that's upgraded to 5 when she, as Lashad has stated, her record spheres upgrades her to 5. So she's also a dancer. Legend spheres give her dual silence and dual WHT. And her legend materia are mind plus 1% for each hit dealt with white magic ability is 35%. Is suck. But her LMR is good. So she is one of those healers that you do not invest in. Or invest 5-star motes into. But she's still pretty capable. We're going to put Iris at A tier. She's pretty easy A. The potency are for BSB, plus the dual cast white magic abilities lands her an A. The sub 30 was Living Flame, Paranoid Survivor. Ovelia, Final Fantasy Tactics. Heart's Lament. 5 single attacks. Restores HP 55 to all allies. Mind plus 30%. So, yeah. It's okay. The self-mind buff, and you would have preferred to sacrifice the weak attack for, a better Medica. It's fine. And basic commands, Instacast Kiraja and regular Medica command. It's an okay burst. She has a good super, but good no longer. And that 3.0 cast is painful. Divine Dispelna. Restores HP 85, resistance 100%, grants last stand, and instant cast. That's a really good USB, and probably redeems the character a lot. I like the resistance, and I like the last stand. Everything about this USB is good in my eyes. Ovelia is definitely just a white mage. Silence and WHC. She gets the 15% damage reduction for elements, like Realm does. So that's a bad legend dive, but she does get an LMR later that gives her a 25% chance to dual cast white. Yeah, I think she deserves to be in B. That USB puts her into B. And she got her USB on the previous Final Fantasy Tactics event, so she doesn't need anything further. Alma. Alma's BSB, Orban's Holy Knowledge. Restores HP 85, grants Magical Blink 1, and Hasten Burst Mode. So this is a direct upgrade so far to Sarah's BSB. this becomes the second healer BSB to bestow Magic Blink. Alma gets Instacast Kiraja and Medica Command. So this is a really good healer burst. Really good healer burst. Cleric's Prayer. Minor resist Holy and HP stock 3000. Nope. Alma's USB grants haste, protect, shell, high regen, astro, and re-raise 40%. Tyro with Healing Grimoire call. I don't like this USB at all. It's a lot of words, not a lot of effect. White Mage is not White Mage 5. So, I don't know. It does do something very different from her BSB. But I don't know if I'd ever use it. I guess so. Haste is always useful. Well, not always, but haste is a nice thing to have. And Astra is a nice thing to have. But it's not a USB. It's just a glorified Super Soul Break. Yeah, Dreamlord, I agree. Change that re-raise for Last Stand, and I'm in. I'm in. It's a good, would be a good USB. But as is, no. Alma, the character herself. Black Magic 4, White Magic 5, Summoning 5, and Bard 3. Bard 3 is interesting. Gives her access to the 3-star Bard abilities that increase attack and magic. Silence and White. She dual casts white magic abilities. And a 27% chance to grant Magic Blink 1 to the target. Same LMR as Realm. So she got a good Legend Dive. But unlike Sarah, she doesn't have Bard 5. And she doesn't have access to Sarah's really nice USB. So, Alma's just a really good healer, so probably... Oh, man. She's definitely better than Ovelia. Since all of her strength is focused in that really good BSB that Alma has. Oh, sorry. You know what's weird is... If there's something that pushes Alma in A tier, it's 3-star Bard abilities. They're not bad. Yeah, Ovelia does have the USB. Update site, sure. I think I'm gonna have to put her in B. Because she really is just her BSB and her Legend Dive. And would you Legend Dive a healer for just their BSB? I think that's an important thing to realize about this. It's not... Yeah, I think high B is where I throw her. Ooh. We're ending on a good one. Deuce. My Final Fantasy waifu. God, I hate that word so much. Deuce, BSB Concerto. Cura Medica. Attack and magic plus 30%. The only healer that provides this buff on their burst. We do get this buff and haste to the entire party from Sarah's BSB. Or USB, sorry. But from bursts, this is the only place to get it. So this is very similar to Afmao and Yuna's BSB2. But attack and magic instead of magic and mind. More flexible. Deuce's commands, though, is where she blows both of them out of the water. Even if it's a slightly different buff on entry, we get actual real healer commands here. With an instant cast Kiraja and a Medica command. Great. This is one of the best healer bursts in the game, I would say. Or at least very unique in what it does. And it does what it does very, very well. Yeah, I wouldn't say... I don't want to get into that for the conversation, but... I wouldn't say that it is. Not yet, Ricky. Once Onion Knight gets access to his USBs, that changes. And they become like a deadly duo. Anyway, Deuce Super Soul Break Prelude grants Last Stand, Magic Blink 1, and High Regen. Finally, a usable Super Soul Break. This is like a 2.5, and both of the effects, Last Stand and Magic Blink 1, are actually pretty awesome. I mean, it's a super, and, you know, you're probably going to be using just about anything else almost all the time, but at least it's usable. Unlike a lot of the other supers that we've gone over. Where Deuce runs into a bit of a snag, just a bit, is her USB, Hem of Healing. It's an Instacast Curaga Medica that has a Cure Raise attached to it and grants stones get 30%. It's instant. It's an instant Curaga Medica with stone skin 30%. That is good. If there's one thing that's problem with it, it's the Cure Raise. It could be better. But what it does is it gives Deuce an instant Medica. So it's not unusable like Ishtola's or anything. Deuce the character. Black Magic 5. The only healer on the list with Black Magic 5, right? Actually useful. Because you can use Deuce as a mage. So what buffers can provide to a party is they buff the party and then they can use abilities. And Deuce having access to Black Magic 5 means she can melt down. She can do other stuff if you don't need her to be healing at any given time. So that is yet another capability that Deuce can bring to a team other than just healing, depending on what you need for the situation. So that's awesome. It's really awesome that she has Black Magic 5. And Bard 5. Again, like Sarah, gets access to Allegro Kawamoto and the new 5-star Bard abilities. It's just one of the best ability pools available to a white mage. Moving into her Legend Spheres, Deuce gets the Silence in White. And Deuce gets 35% chance to dual cast white magic abilities. It's an easy yes. It's an easy yes. Everything about Rem or Deuce is fantastic. And her USB is the worst part of her, and it's not even that bad. It just has a probably dead effect on it, but 3 good effects. All right, so we have we've reached the end of the healers. Oh, Alma, I need to give her a date. January 25th. So I'll update now, and now we rearrange. Her LMR is weird. I don't really care for it. It does work with the war songs, though. That is kind of interesting, because normally that LMR isn't any good because buffs last 25 seconds. And if you're casting, abilities, or if you're doing like sub 30 clears, the increasing the duration of buffs is not useful. But because of those 5-star Bard abilities, it actually can be. I think it's only like 30% though, isn't it? So it just changes it from 10 seconds to 13 seconds. Might give her an extra turn. There's no need to put Menu in D because there's nobody else in C. And I've seen nothing to convince me that any of these B tier healers are worthy of being put in C. Let's take a look at B tier. Arc. Maybe Arc. Yeah, maybe Arc. Arya doesn't deserve it. Porom doesn't deserve it. She buffs. Yuna definitely doesn't. Vanille definitely doesn't. And Ovelia doesn't. And Alma doesn't. I may put Arc in C. Arc has double cast? Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. Well, I'm not going to put plus grades. Again, I'm not putting Ishtola in A tier. There's a very specific reason why I'm not, even though I believe personally she's an A tier healer. She needs... You know what? This is a great idea. I don't know why I haven't done it sooner. She is A tier. I made an entire, section. I think I may put Rosa in A. I made a complete section for special consideration for, situations exactly like this. Oh no, if I moved Arc down to C, that would immediately move Minmu to D. It's gonna ruffle some feathers, but I believe it to be true. So, what do you guys think? Should I keep the list like this, or should I arrange it by tier? At least on this list. When I make the conclusion list, it obviously will be arranged by tier. But if people want to reference this over the course of the next week, I think I should immediately arrange them by tier. I mean, I have the realms listed anyway. Yeah. So let's do that. We'll arrange them by realm inside the tier, so people don't feel like one person within the tier is greater than the other. Update. That's a huge A. But that's a huge B too. I think it makes sense. A and B are populated and S is exclusive. Wow. Sarah Realm, Echo, and Deuce. Browns, STY. So, I mean, Q, that is the question, and I don't think it is anymore. Yeah, have you seen Selfie's Legend Dive and her USB and her BSB2? Selfie's really good. Elgate, that's actually kind of funny. I probably could, and it would make sense. So does everyone, like, I mean, Hugh just said it. Zadowel just said it. Is at least the general, like, feeling that, yes, as a healer, you kind of have to be more than a healer now? Arc is above Vanille. They're in the same tier. Just, yeah. His realm comes 10 games earlier. Well, you can use Minwoo in 30-second clears. But you're not making a good point, Sketch. If you're using Rosa, that means you're making up for it in another way. If you are having trouble getting a 30-second clear, then Rosa's probably not your healer. Because you're devoting too much of your team's capability towards healing and not enough towards doing damage. Sorry, the tiers are arranged by realm. It's not arranged by how good they are within the realm. We could argue all day about people's individual rankings within a tier. Yeah, she doesn't fall off. There's just people that do the job of, you know, that do better than her. That's all. Okay. We're done with that. Yeah, I know, Ricky. I can't do that. We use the tier list for a reason. I think I need to